I have some unfortunate news for my elementary school class today. This year's pumpkin parade is canceled. Sorry, everyone.
Excuse me. Why is it canceled?
Yes, Amala?
Why is it canceled?
It's canceled because the pumpkin parade historically marginalizes students of color who do not celebrate the holiday. So if one person is offended by any holiday, we no longer celebrate that holiday.
Well, I don't get it. I don't celebrate the holiday, but I could just sit and watch a movie and everybody else could do the pumpkin parade.
That is unacceptable. Everyone needs to know and be sensitive to how oppressed you are, and no one should enjoy good things if one minority person does not celebrate that holiday.
Really, I'm saying it's okay. You can really do the pumpkin parade.
Stop internalizing your racism. Okay? Look, Halloween is canceled. And by the way, you're no longer allowed to say Happy Halloween. Just start saying Happy Holidays a month earlier, because we have to group every holiday together, and just because we never know who celebrates what. So Happy Holidays, Amala.
Wow, and scene. How sad is that? That's very, very sad. This is a story out of Daily Wire. Let's read the headline here. Seattle school cancels pumpkin parade for marginalizing people of color. School will encourage autumnal work and sharing all the cozy feelings of the season instead. When you think things can't get any more ludicrous, they get a little bit more ludicrous. Let's see what the reasoning is behind this. How could a pumpkin parade in the fall time, in the month of October, be marginalizing students of color? Guess what? I'm about to tell you. A Halloween themed parade at a school in Seattle has been canceled, with school administrators arguing that it marginalized people of color. Following 5 years of deliberation about the future of the school's annual pumpkin parade, Benjamin Franklin Elementary School has decided to nix the holiday tradition this year on the advice of the school's racial equity team. Good job, racial equity team.
They just fix everything. Any problems in society, racial equity teams find them and find ways to fix them. They don't make new problems.
Right.
They fix existing ones.
Yes.
And so thank God that this racial equity team is saving Halloween, or saving us from Halloween. We didn't know how much it was harming us and how much it was harming these poor minorities. But
right. But now we know.
The racial equity team.
Yeah. So you may be wondering, I still don't get it. How does a pumpkin parade marginalize students? And I tried to think of my own excuse for how a pumpkin parade marginalizes students of color, and I couldn't think of one. I thought maybe they were going to say costumes or cultural appropriation or something along those lines, or that, I don't know, a kid might dress up as a police officer and that's traumatic.
That's triggering.
That's triggering.
Someone could do a blackface, God forbid.
Yeah, leave your guesses down below, guys.
Yeah.
How is the pumpkin parade marginalizing students? Leave your other guesses alone. I'm going to tell you how it's marginalizing students, according to Benjamin Franklin Elementary School. Historically, the pumpkin parade marginalizes students of color who do not celebrate the holiday, a spokesperson told Jason Rantz, a Seattle-based conservative radio host. Specifically, these students have requested to be isolated on campus while the event took place. In alliance with SPS's unwavering commitment to students of color, specifically African-American males, the staff is committed to supplanting the pumpkin parade with more inclusive and educational opportunities during the school day. Now, in place of the pumpkin parade, students at the school may participate in autumnal work, whatever that means. I don't know what autumnal work means. It's like, okay.
Is that like raking leaves?
I was just going to say.
That's the autumnal work I had to do as a kid.
They just give the kids some rakes and have them just rake up the schoolyard, just clean up the school. And thematic units of study about the fall. They might also look at sharing all the cozy feelings of the season. What is going on? What is going on?
I leave it to these people to find pumpkins, problematize pumpkins, problematize a pumpkin parade. Like, it's the most stupid, innocuous thing to have. I mean, it's great. It's part of, why would you change it? It's already called the pumpkin parade. Why do you need to change it from that to something that celebrates the cozy feelings of the fall, or that's autumnal? Pumpkin parade is very autumnal and it's very cozy feelings of the fall. I don't understand.
Well, they clarify a little bit. Halloween events create a situation where students must be excluded for their beliefs, financial status, or life experience. Costume parties often become an uncomfortable event for many children, and they distract students and staff from learning. What is going? No, let's step outside of the fact that this is a Halloween party for children. Obviously, this is quite insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but again, these insignificant stories speak to larger truths. What we are now doing is saying that because a couple students at this school don't celebrate Halloween because of religious beliefs or family beliefs, that we are now going to alienate everybody at the school. Now nobody gets to celebrate a holiday which is widely renowned, nationally recognized here in America. None of the people at school get to experience this because a couple students don't celebrate Halloween. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I was in school, there were certainly students who didn't celebrate certain holidays. It was against their religious beliefs to do so. If you know Jehovah's Witnesses, they famously do not celebrate holidays that we celebrate. And what you do is those kids go and they have their own little, I don't know, pizza party, and they watch a movie separately from the other kids while the other kids do their thing.
Yeah, I mean, my parents didn't let us really celebrate Halloween until I got to a certain age. But because they're like conservative Christians, and we had like church, fall festival or Hallelujah night or something where we still got to do candy and stuff. But even then, like when we'd go to school, it was just like a cutesy little thing where the teacher would give us candy corn and wear a pumpkin sweater and throw some little cute ghosts up around the classroom and decorate. And I loved it. That's where like, I love Halloween today. And we're like, I do a Halloween party with my wife, and like, we're into it, but not the like demonic stuff, but just like the cutesy stuff. But it started in elementary school just by enjoying that stuff, even though like my family didn't participate in it. And like, to your point, we work with plenty of Jewish people here at PragerU, and they still wish us Merry Christmas.
Yes,
and
they
have
do.
absolutely no problem
do.
with the fact that we Christians celebrate Christmas.
Now, there's so many people in the comments right now saying, why does this matter? It's really not that big of a deal. Why does anybody care about this? Guys, it's not about the issue itself. It's not about this exact story itself. It's about the principle that because something offends a couple people, not even offends them, they just simply don't participate in it, that we're then meant to strip everybody else of that. Do you see how that idea and that thinking is dangerous? It is extremely dangerous, especially when it comes to children. But let's look at it at a broader scale. Let's look at the Oregon high schools that ended up eliminating reading, writing, and arithmetic requirements for students because Black people were quote unquote marginalized or disproportionately affected by those things. What we do now is we identify a victim class when it comes to an issue, and it's Black people, or it's Asian people, or it's gay people, or it's women. And then we go, because this issue affects these people, let's just strip it away from everybody, because I don't want anybody to be affected by this. I want to placate my reality to the reality of a few people and then push that reality on everybody else that's around me. And that is not okay. It's not okay when it comes to a little Halloween pumpkin parade, and it's not okay when it comes to academic achievements and standards. It's not okay when it comes to how we view the world. You don't get to look at two people who feel marginalized by something, even though I feel like these students have never even complained about this, and then go, you know what, let's strip it from our reality.
Yeah. I have a funny comment here. Cameron says, as a Celtic American, I'm offended that they're attacking Halloween. So
there you go.
What are you doing here? You're marginalizing a minority American group
Right.
In his own holiday. So,
but they don't care. They only care when it's students of color.
They're ruining everything. You're not allowed to have any uniqueness about you. It's like, it's funny that these people who are the diversity champions are canceling everything and making it so we can't have any celebrate anything in American culture. It all has to be this baseline gray area. No, we're just celebrating seasons. We're just celebrating, they're taking sucking all the joy and fun out of life, out of this fake. No one's actually offended by this, but it's the virtue points that you get by finding something problematic and patting yourself on the back for being so woke. And the net result is we all suffer by not having great, fun things to rally around and share as a culture, by the way. That's how it ends up harming us as an entire nation and as a culture, is we have fewer touch points around which we can share holidays. It doesn't matter if you're conservative, liberal, black, white, whatever. We can all celebrate Halloween because it's kind of like an American thing that we've incorporated into our traditions. But now, it's disproportionately not celebrated by a certain community, so no one's allowed to celebrate it anymore.
Right. It's ridiculous.
Destructive logic.
I think I talked about this on the show yesterday, but I had a friend who didn't celebrate Halloween. One of my best friends throughout middle school and high school, a black friend whose family didn't celebrate Halloween and didn't allow her to celebrate Halloween. And I still celebrated, and she was fine with that. She stayed home on that night, and I would bring her my candy the next day, and she'd get half of my candy. That's it. That's how we should treat these things. There are people who don't celebrate Halloween. Those people can do their own separate thing.
Yeah, as someone who sat it out, like I wasn't offended by it. I was kind of like, that's cool. I'm jealous. Can I have some of that candy?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And then you build a thick skin and you move on with your day. Yeah. Speaking of moving on with your day, a video has gone viral. And this one's of Joe Rogan and Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who you may recognize as a featured face on CNN. And they're talking about the scoop on ivermectin and Joe Rogan's specific experience with this medication. This clip has been going viral, so let's get into it.
Sorry.
Lie on a news network, and it's
horse dewormer's not a flattering thing. I get that.
It's a lie. It's a lie on a news network, and it's a lie that's a willing. That's a lie that they're conscious of. This is not a mistake.
Yeah.
They're unfavorably framing it as veterinary medicine.
Well, the FDA put this thing out. You saw that. Did you see that thing that the FDA put out?
What did the FDA put out?
It was a tweet, and it was snarky. I admit it. They said, "You are not a horse. You are not a cow. Stop taking this stuff," or something like that.
Why would you say that when you're talking about a drug that's been given out to billions and billions of people, a drug that was responsible for one of the inventors of it making the
Nobel Prize
in 2015?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, a drug that has been shown to stop viral replication in vitro. You know that, right? Why would they lie and say that's horse dewormer? I can afford people medicine, motherfucker. This is ridiculous. It's just a lie.
I don't think anyone is...
But don't you think that a lie like that is dangerous on a news network when you know that they know they're lying? You know that they know that I took medicine, like, here it is. This is ivermectin.
You got
this
it with
right
you.
Here. Somebody gave it to me.
All right, hang on. The thing is, we're like going so fast. Like I feel like I'm missing. Do
you think that's a problem that your news network lies?
Well, I don't.
Dude,
I mean, what did they say?
They lied and said I was taking horse dewormer. First of all, it was prescribed to me by a doctor.
Yeah.
Along
they
with
shouldn't have said
a
it was
bunch of other medications.
If you got a human pill, because there were people that were taking it, the veterinary medication, and you're not, obviously. You got it from a doctor, so that it shouldn't be called that. Ivermectin can be a very effective medication for parasitic disease, and as you say, it's probably, I think, 250 million people have taken it around the world.
More,
I get that.
Way more.
So,
way more. Billions of people have taken it.
Can I just come back to the one I want to talk about? Two things on the ledger.
You have, before we get to that, does it bother you that the news network you work for out and out lied, just outright lied about me taking horse dewormer?
They shouldn't have said that.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
You didn't ask? You didn't think that was you're the medical guy over there.
I didn't ask. I should have asked before coming on your podcast.
But they did it with such glee.
No,
yes,
Joe.
They did. I watched.
Joe held his feet to the flames, which is what I truly appreciate. And that's what a good interviewer and somebody who wants to find the truth does. They don't allow you to just hop, skip, and jump over the actual topics that need to be talked about. He said, wait, no, hold on. How do you feel about the fact that your news network said this? How do you feel about it? And he couldn't answer.
Did you see Gupta's tweet too? I think can you pull it up real quick?
Yeah, I'm going to pull it up for you guys. Here's his response. I walked into the lion's den and spoke with Joe Rogan on his podcast for more than 3 hours. Vaccines, ivermectin, and much more. Friends tried to get me to turn down his invite, but ultimately I'm glad I did it.
Now, my question is, and this we talked about this right before the podcast, but why is it going into the lion's den to go on an interview to speak with Joe Rogan, who just asks honest questions. It's going into the lion's den because of your affiliations, because you know who you work for, and he's not used to stepping outside of his bubble and living in that world where they carefully craft the narrative in 30-second sound bites, and they take a video of Joe Rogan. He posted this started when Joe Rogan posted an Instagram story after he got sick or with COVID. He got tested positive, and his doctor prescribed him a whole bunch of stuff, including the medication they're talking about. And he posted a selfie video talking about it, and that sparked outrage all over the internet. And CNN reported on it. They even put a filter on his video to make him look sicker on the selfie than it did on Instagram.
That's crazy.
And so Joe Rogan, it's walking into the lion's den, because by going on Joe Rogan's show, you're just exposing yourself to be asked basic questions of why you're misrepresenting the truth. But if you only ever watch CNN, if you only ever tune into the mainstream media, there's never the opportunity to see them questioned or to have the narrative that they're pushing questioned. And he even mentioned how, by the way, it was interesting how the FDA put out that snarky tweet about, you're not a horse, so don't take this stuff. When if anyone should know that it was given a Nobel Peace Prize for use on humans, and that billions of people have taken it, as they're talking about. It's the people behind the FDA, but instead these keyboard warriors are putting out this tweet, and it's like there's this gated, closed-off narrative that they represent to the world, these elites, and there's never the opportunity to poke holes in it. And that's why going on Joe Rogan was going into the lion's den for Sanjay Gupta, because he's stepping outside of the CNN bubble, and he's actually has to stand by and be consistent on his logic. And this was such a great, to your point, instance of Joe Rogan just demonstrating just being a good interviewer and just saying, hey, no, I'm not going to let you out. I mean, he wasn't hostile or angry or anything, even though he had a right to be, I think. But he was just like, hey, man, no, you have to actually answer this question. Are you okay, as the medical expert on CNN, that your network lied about the medication I was taking?
Yeah, when you work for a propaganda machine that does nothing but put out lies for the most part, of course going somewhere where people only speak truth is the lion's den. Of course it's going to feel like you're going up against a lion. The truth is a lion when you lie all the time and when you propagandize what's happening right now in the world. And he felt that. You can see the discomfort on his face. He tried so hard to run away from that first line of questioning of, do you feel uncomfortable, or are you upset that your network allowed these lies to be put out specifically in regard to myself? And you can see him. He's just like, I can't, I don't want to answer this. I don't want to answer this, because when you're confronted with the truth and when you're confronted with the failings of your ideology and what you've pushed for such a long time, it's a difficult conversation to have. And he deserves a little bit of discomfort for this, but I am glad that he actually showed up and sat down with Joe Rogan. That's more than we've seen from CNN in a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, I will give him props for that. And I mean, the path to the media gaining the trust of the American people again is to be open and have transparency, and to actually be able to stand by the things that they put out. And it's not just this closed off propaganda that you see, but I made a note here I was going to bring, but now I lost my thought.
No, you're good. So Glenn Greenwald, he put out a thread alongside this with everything that happened with Joe and Sanjay on this day. I wanted to go through a little bit of the thread. So Glenn says, of course, the usual media villains spread disinformation and unhinged conspiracy theories, QAnon boards, Facebook boomers, 4chan teenagers, but corporate media outlets do exactly the same as a model on purpose, and it's far more damaging because their platform is bigger. Yeah.
Such a good point. They have the veneer of credibility and authority, but they use that as a weapon to just push propaganda.
Right. Perceived authority is so important, and it is so powerful, and that is what CNN has. When you are anybody, you don't have to be a young person, you can be anybody watching CNN, there is automatically a perceived hierarchy there, that because they are on mainstream media, because they have self-proclaimed experts on these shows, that what they're saying is truth, and the through line of what CNN reports is meant to be truth. So that perceived authority alone is enough to make your propaganda and your lies far more damaging than some teenager on 4chan or a QAnon board.
Yeah, the whole purpose of media is to convey the truth, to arm people with the truth and the facts so they can know what's going on in the world and make choices and live their lives as informed. But the media has broken the central premise of their mandate, which is to be truthful. And we see that when one of their people steps outside the bubble they can't last for 2 minutes to try to uphold the narrative. They can't stand up to 2 minutes of questioning about it, because it's just a closed off, they can't defend. And I've seen this quote lately that if you can't question it, it's not science. And I think
Right.
it's the same way. If you can't question it in the media, then it's propaganda. If
Yeah.
it can't hold up to questioning, then it's propaganda.
And that was my experience on the left. Anytime I got questioned, I was like, how dare you? How dare you question a black woman? How dare you? And I just actually finished up watching Michaela Peterson and Jordan Peterson talk to Africa Brooke about her experience with that. And she echoed the exact same sentiment, that oftentimes when she was questioned for her beliefs, her first instinct was to go, how dare you, and get super defensive. And if your beliefs do not hold up past skepticism, you probably don't have very strong beliefs, and there probably is not much support to back up the things that you're saying.
Yeah, if you're interested in finding the truth, you invite as much scrutiny as possible,
Right.
and you invite as many questions as possible, and you want to hear the best arguments against your position. Which, by the way, the media should be a forum to host, hey, here's the best argument on this side, here's the best argument on this side, decide for yourself. That's what it should be.
Yep.
But instead it's, here's what you should think, here's the approved truth by the experts, believe it, and anyone who says otherwise is a moron. And they can't help themselves but take shots at people who disagree, even when the people who disagree, like Joe Rogan in this case, are completely justified. And this was a great little snippet where we got to see what happens when their narrative gets completely destroyed by truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And one last note here from Glenn. He tweeted, over the last 5 years, the most disinformation, lies, and demented conspiracy theories, and the most damage done have emanated from the corporate media outlets and that sermonize most. And they're the most sinister because they want to censor speech so only their lies are heard. And that is another part of it, that they only want what they have to say to be heard. And it's not even at the point of dialogue anymore. You can hold your beliefs and not have a dialogue with anybody for the rest of your life and just hold those beliefs, and that's fine. But what they're now doing is saying, I hold these beliefs, and if you don't hold these beliefs, you don't have the right to speak on these platforms.
Yeah, it's like not only will I give an honest representation of both sides of a story, I'm going to stamp out one side from from being able to talk at all.
Right. It's a whole different type of sinister nature when it comes to just personal individualism and the ability to just think for yourself, whether you end on the left or on the right or somewhere in the center. Everybody should have that right. But there's a group of people that want to strip you of that right to even have the ability to think and to fall somewhere else on the line. And I don't care if you fall. You could fall more left than they do. You have that right, though, and you should have that right. And there's a group of people that doesn't want you to have that right, and that's sad.
It is sad.
Yeah.
Almost as sad as pumpkin parades being canceled.
Almost as sad as pumpkin parades being canceled for a bunch of elementary school kids. That is really sad. But good news today, guys. It's not all bad news.
Oh, thank God. Yesterday was like so brutal because we had just so many negative stories. And actually, I found this. I wish I could give credit, but if you look at the comments on yesterday's stream,
Yep.
I found this because I said on the stream yesterday, I haven't heard any stories of Australian police who refuse to enforce the tyranny that's happening. And someone left a couple of links in the comments on yesterday's stream on YouTube. And I followed one and we found this video. So check it out.
Yes, so let's hear from this officer.
Behind that is all of my friends that are police officers that are working the front line and are suffering every day, enforcing show directions that the vast majority, or certainly a great majority, don't believe in and don't want to enforce. The consequences of me being here today is that I will be resigning from Victoria Police effective the end of this interview.
Wow.
Because the consequences of me coming out publicly would be dismissal. So I'm choosing to quit, and I'm quitting because I can't remedy in my soul anymore the way in which my organisation that I love to work for is being used, and the damage that it's causing in the reputation of Victoria Police and the damage that it's causing to the community. Perhaps police are either feeling more emboldened to act the way they are in relation to these show directions is because of the messaging that comes from Dan. He's not...
Dan? You guys don't listen to Dan, you listen to Shane, right?
Well, everybody listens to Daniel Andrews. He's the Premier of our state and he tells us what to do on a daily basis.
So, Rita and James, that was Christy Mitchell. She's
Christy Mitchell. of the Victorian police. Yeah, let's clap for Christy. It's a sad thing too. We're sitting here cheering her on, but she's leaving her profession.
It's true.
You know?
It's a sobering thing, but it's better to quit than to be a puppet of tyranny directly.
Yeah. And she speaks to the empowerment that a lot of officers feel now that they're being told by higher ups that they can just run around and essentially police people's lives, more so than just deterring crime. Although much of what they are deterring, I guess, has been labeled a crime, but they feel emboldened as police officers because the higher ups are telling them it is now your obligation to keep Australia safe and it's in your hands. And this is why they're going out and beating and macing and choking people.
It's propaganda. I mean, this is exactly why, everyone says don't make, I'm not going to make a Holocaust comparison, but a Nazi Germany comparison, like the Hitler Youth, and they had to target these young men in Germany to brainwash them from an early age. It's like, this is for the glory of Germany, this is for this, and this is for that. And the parallel is very obvious when you're propagandizing your own police force to deaden their souls against that's what she said in this thing. I had to quit here because I could not in my soul reconcile what I'm doing anymore. And thank God that she had a little bit of a soul left. And I pray that more of these officers wake up and that instead of them being emboldened by what the tyrants are telling them to do, that they are emboldened to stand up for what's right and not tyrannize their fellow man.
Right. You know that there has to be more than just this woman. And she saw what's happening. And it's unfortunate that speaking out and being dissident means that you have to quit your job. That is super unfortunate. So now who knows what she's going to do? Who knows how she'll be treated in the job market now in Australia, because we know that's crazy as well. And that it requires vaccination. Yeah. So who knows what that's going to be like for her?
Who knows if she can even leave the country now? I saw a tweet the other day of a guy screenshotted or took a picture of a letter he got from the government saying he wasn't allowed to leave because the government didn't deem his reasons for going on this business trip to Dubai sufficient grounds or sufficiently beneficial to the interest of Australia to qualify as being able to leave the country.
Right.
Could you imagine being a prisoner in your own country?
It's terrifying. It's terrifying. Just like you can't go out and get some sun in Australia because it's not essential anymore for you to do that if you're not vaccinated.
It's non-essential sunshine.
Non-essential? Who says you need vitamin D? I don't care. I don't care what the health officers say. I only care what this health officer says. It's crazy.
It is a great contrast to that video. We watched that video yesterday of an Australian police officer confronting someone on the beach for sunbathing.
Right.
And this is a great contrast to that there is some kernel of sanity left in the Dan Under.
And you've got to think that when the dust settles, hopefully the dust does settle in Australia, you're going to have a lot of low-life police officers who are going to feel, hopefully, very badly about the things that they've done. Unless, this just keeps happening and they keep being pedestalized for essentially abusing their citizens, which I just can't imagine this people being so susceptible to tyranny and authoritarianism that all of these police officers have decided to go along with this.
Yeah, it's funny. There's we talk about the thin blue line that the cops are between us and anarchy. There's sort of a thin, I don't know what color line, but on the side of the police right now, where the ones who are unwilling to enforce tyranny are the only thing standing against them becoming a Gestapo, taking away everyone's rights. And that is the battle right now. And it's between the people who are willing to stand up for freedom, stand up for natural rights and stand up for the values of freedom and liberty, and those who are dead in their souls and are just going along and receiving the pats on the back from the higher ups and being willing to let that carry them to carry out atrocities.
Right. The fight is on. The fight is on, and the lines are being drawn in the sand, and you can stand on one side or you can stand on the other, and I hope you stand on the side of choice. Now, a second piece of good news. Are you kidding me? Is this a record for our show? A second piece of good news?
Well, we wanted the warm and fuzzy feelings of fall today. So
we did, as opposed to our pumpkin parade. This is out of Variety. Netflix's co-CEO, Ted Sarandos, I believe is how you pronounce his name, is doubling down on his defense of Dave Chappelle following the mounting controversy around his latest comedy special. His quote is, "We have a strong belief that content on screen doesn't directly translate to real-world harm."
You
How
think?
about that? How'd you like them apples?
Yeah, I mean, there's an interesting through line here from a story we covered earlier this week on the John Gruden emails. This NFL coach that was canceled for some emails he had sent privately 10 years ago, that we're not harming anyone. We're sitting in an inbox that nobody was able to see besides him and the person, his friend, that received them, but he used offensive language, and he was canceled for that. And the question that Matt Walsh and others were asking is, this is causing absolutely no harm to anyone. He's had no complaints from anybody about that's actually been harmed. And I think that that's the same rationale that this Netflix executive is using, that it's like, look, guys, he made some jokes. And some people don't think they're funny. Some people are offended by them, but that's comedy. Sometimes people get offended by jokes, but there's no evidence to show that anyone's actually being harmed by this special being on our platform. So we're standing by it, and good on him.
Right. You didn't see conservatives jumping down Dave Chappelle's throat when he attacked Candace and called her a loser and all this crazy stuff. Like, who cares? Everything is par for the course.
Candace herself went on air and was like, okay, whatever. Like,
right.
she wasn't like, oh, that was great and it's so funny, haha, I'm a big loser.
Right.
But she didn't like get all offended about it.
Right. Yeah. She's
a good sport.
Yeah. It's par for the course when it comes to comedy. You can make fun of anything, and that's what Dave Chappelle does. He does it in a very fantastic way, which is why he is so famous. So I'm happy to see that the Netflix CEO is standing up for him and saying that this comedy special is going to stay up. Also, if you haven't seen the comedy special, go watch it, because if you're reading the news headlines around this, you would think that it's the worst comedy. Like, you would think that he just goes on a Nazi tirade for an hour and 15 minutes, and that's not the case at all. He actually expresses love for the transgender community, and at the very end talks about a friend of his who was transgender, who is now deceased, and how much he loved her. So get over yourselves, man. Get over yourselves. This selective outrage is just... It's just that. It's selective outrage. And it's
fake, too.
Yep.
I mean, it's held by a tiny percentage of loud woke people and the critics at Rotten Tomatoes who hated this. But it has like a 97% audience score, a positive, or 99% positive. Everyday people are not falling for this BS. It's not offensive. It's comedy. Get over it and move on.
Yeah, and speaking of audience scores, we have a survey that we need you guys to fill out. We're going to put it down in the chat below. It's also in the description below this video. It's a survey to talk about this show. How often do you watch? What do you like about it? What do you dislike about it? What segments would you like to see? How many days a week should we do the show? All that fun stuff we want to ask you and see what's on your mind, because we'd like to curate this show for you to have the best experience. So please fill out that survey as soon as you can. You can do it while you're listening to us right now. You can do it after the show. Just go and fill out that survey, buds. That'll be my I know there's not gifts on Halloween, but it's my Halloween gift.
Well, it's a holiday gift because we just don't celebrate Halloween.
Right. We can't say Halloween anymore.
But I just posted the link to the survey in the chat. So please, guys, if you get a minute, check it out. And if you're watching or listening later, it'll be in the description of the video or podcast.
Appreciate you guys. Now,
hold on. Can we just address this real quick?
Yes.
People are asking, where's Will Witt? When's Will Witt coming back? And I think we need to give the people an answer. Will is still on his book tour. It's week 3. It's almost over. It's in the home stretch.
It is basically over. Today it's over.
Yeah.
Today's his last day.
event.
Last event.
At Cal State Fullerton. And Amala is about to drive, crazy person that she is, 3 hours through traffic to get there, I think.
I'm such
Did
a
I
good
just out
friend.
you? Or people not supposed to know?
You can. They can know. I will.
Now people will show up. I just helped out no one was going to go. But
they were not going to go otherwise. But I'm going to be at Cal State Fullerton tonight. So I watch people show up and be like, "Where's the Amala event, Will?" But no, I'll be at Cal State Fullerton. I'm going to drive a ridiculous amount of time to go see Will on one of his book tour trips because I'm such a good friend. So.
Yeah, I mean it's like 45 minutes away, no traffic, but with LA traffic, it's literally like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, DM Will on Instagram and say that Amala is the best.
The best.
The best.
But Will, I think, will be back tomorrow. He said he can come in for the show. He will be exhausted from his long tour, but
the gang is
have him
back together.
Yeah.
Hey. But yeah, speaking of Will and I, one thing that Will and I share is that we didn't go to school. Or we did go to school, but we dropped out. Taylor, our young academic here, did go to school. How do you feel about that, Taylor?
I feel indebted
to the American government, or
with student loans. And you guys don't have any student loans, do you?
No, I don't. I don't know if Will does, but I definitely don't have student loans. And isn't that just an amazing thing? And you know what will save you from student loans if you're a young person watching right now and you don't know what to do with your life? Trade school. Assuming that you are a handy person, or at least a person who can learn. But PragerU put out a documentary called Trading Up, featuring Mike Rowe and a young woman by the name of Chloe, who we're going to get to know very, very shortly here. And it's about the difference between trade schools and colleges, or the university experience, and that sort of standard that we've created in American society for everybody to go to college and university. So here's a little clip from that.
This is Chloe. Hold on. This isn't the real Chloe, and none of this really happened. I mean, this would have been Chloe if she listened to the usual advice, but the real Chloe chose a different path. This is her story.
My name is Chloe Hudson, and I'm a welder. I work for Joe Gibbs Racing. I work for Joe Gibbs Aerospace. I build aircraft parts for experimental aircraft, and I also build race car parts for the NASCAR race cars. I get to do my dream job every single day. I get to end my day fulfilled. I get to build these awesome parts and change history, be a part of changing history, be a part of changing race history as they progress with cars, being a part of experimental aircraft and how it changes history. My journey didn't start off as me always wanting to be a welder. My freshman year of high school, even before then, I just knew I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a surgeon, whether a general surgeon. Later in life, I kind of wanted to be a plastic surgeon. Got into a four-year university day after I graduated high school, started that program and hated it and realized this was not going to be for me. I couldn't do 4, 6, 10 years of this. So I hit the road and really learned a lot about a bunch of different skilled trades. And I went and interviewed for an aviation job. I wanted to build aircraft parts, and I went into this interview, and I will never forget the day this interview sat me down. And he had my resume, and I had all these different trades that I kind of got to dip a toe in. And he was like, well, you're a jack of all trades and you're a master of none, and I really can't do anything with you. And you want to talk about reality smacking you right in the face, it's like, well, there's the fire that I needed, because I'm about to be a master of one.
I think that's a good place to end it, on Mike Rowe's entrance into the documentary. You can go and check that out by going to PragerU.com.
But I wanted to see Mike Rowe. Where can I see him?
You can see it at PragerU.com. You can click watch. You can go to short documentaries, and you can watch Trading Up, featuring Chloe and Mike Rowe.
That's great. So. I wish I had that before I spent thousands of dollars on my master's degree.
Right. I wish somebody had told me about trade school, which is why we're telling you about trade school. And a lot of people are commenting they don't think Chloe's real. She's real. Just because she's absolutely gorgeous does not mean she's not a real welder.
We will bring her on the show if we have to. If you guys want to bring her on, we can bring her on.
If you guys are so skeptical about a welder that looks like a model, we will bring her on the show. In fact, we were thinking about even filming a vlog where Will and I and Taylor go and try to weld with Chloe, which is probably not going to go well for me.
That was a great idea.
It was a great idea. It flew out into the ether and then it never happened, but it was a great concept.
Well, she's not here in LA. If she came to LA, we could do something like that.
That's very true.
How many of you would like to see Will and Amala try their hand at some trades? Like, I don't know. We could do welding. We could do, what are some other good things? Construction. Amala, I think it would be, right. Actually, we're coming out with a new ad very soon, and Amala's got a construction hat. So
I do. It's embarrassing.
It's a very convincing role. You're a natural.
I look big, bad, and tough. I look like a construction worker. You see these guns? Wow. Are you kidding me? Look at those noodle arms.
You got a permit for those?
Oi, you got a license for those guns? As they say in Australia.
A license?
No, they don't even ask you for a license anymore. They just take the guns away from you.
Straight to jail.
Taking my guns away from me. We're going to finish up the show today with a series that we do on Thursday called Throwback Thursday. Today's Throwback Thursday investigates the question of this: do we live in a brave new world? You all know the Aldous Huxley version, the book, Brave New World. Do we live in that? Are we currently in that scenario? We're going to find out by watching this video by Academy of Ideas on YouTube.
In his 1958 book, Brave New World Revisited, Aldous Huxley wrote the following: "If the first half of the 20th century was the era of the technical engineers, the second half may well be the era of the social engineers, and the 21st century, I suppose, will be the era of world controllers, the scientific caste system, and Brave New World." 30 years prior to penning these words, Huxley wrote his classic work of fiction, Brave New World. Set in the distant future, this book depicts a scientifically managed dystopian society. In Brave New World, the ruling authorities attain mass compliance not through force, but by supplying the masses with endless streams of distracting entertainment, and manipulating them with drugs and other technological methods. Huxley wrote Brave New World as a warning. Advances in science and technology, he believed, were paving the way for the type of society depicted in this book, and he cautioned that if a Brave New World type of order solidifies, it could be the final or ultimate revolution. The people will have their liberties taken from them, but they will enjoy their servitude and so never question it, let alone rebel. In a 1962 interview at Berkeley University, Huxley explained, "It seems to me that the nature of the ultimate revolution with which we are now faced is precisely this, that we are in the process of developing a whole series of techniques which will enable the controlling oligarchy, who have always existed and will always exist, to get people to love their servitude."
Oof, good place to pause right there. Loving your servitude. Where have we seen that take place here in America? I think we saw it take place over the past 2 years with these lockdowns.
Yeah, govern me harder, please. Right?
Yes, right. You're absolutely right. And it's reminiscent of me as a young person being 21 in America. All the young people who were on TikTok and Instagram and not Facebook, but Twitter during this pandemic and during the lockdown saying, I think this is great. I don't have to work. The government pays me. I'm antisocial anyways. Why would I want to go see people? And, you know, I'm just happy being here with Uber Eats and DoorDash and Netflix and HBO Max, and I'm content. What do I need more than this?
Yeah. What do you have to complain about? If the government's cutting you a check every month and you can just sit home on your butt and tweet about how racist the world is and just complain about things and watch Netflix and, hate on Dave Chappelle or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. What's like, if they can get you to enjoy that, why would you concern yourself with big ideas like freedom or liberty or the Bill of Rights or, America's founding ideals?
Yeah.
That's stuff. That's all old school. Look how great we've got it now. That's
right.
It's a new time.
This is progress.
Yeah. We're enlightened.
This feels progressive. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. And you can drink or smoke when you're bored and then you're set. That's all you need. If you enjoy your servitude to the government, then why change it? Yeah.
And yeah, the fact that it was written in 1931 and he was foreseeing this is pretty crazy. Yeah. That was like pre-internet, pre-social media, pretty much pre-computers. And, what are we, 90 years later?
Yeah.
And it's pretty much coming true before our eyes. I even
prophesied.
Say, you talked about being the ripe old age of 21.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, we had MySpace, and even then, social media, it was just kind of like a way to everyone knew it was like a silly way to interact online. It wasn't like this dominant thing that it is nowadays, that is like all these different platforms are competing for your attention. People have their whole livelihoods on TikTok or on Instagram. Girls put their whole amount of self-worth in how many likes and followers they have on Instagram. And it's like a whole different reality now that, you know, it's more digital. We were talking the other day, my brother just had a baby a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, like infants these days will have phones with FaceTime shoved in their faces from the time they're newborns, and will never know a world that is analog. You know, it'll always be have screens, and like as soon as they're old enough, they'll be using tablets to watch YouTube videos and this
and
type
it's
stuff.
not normal.
No,
it's not normal. It's not happening with my children. It's not normal. But it's almost hard to keep it away from your children.
Yeah, remember that we watched a few days ago, was it last week? We watched that video of those international trade exchange students, and it's from like the 60s, and we were like blown away. They're like 14 years old, but in their second language, having like nuanced discussion about politics and international relations, and they're explaining their differences in their cultures to each other in such articulate fashion. And now our kids are like, you know, they've seen 1 million episodes of Paw Patrol and scrolled through 10 million TikToks.
And they know nothing.
Yeah, and their attention span is, you know, 3 seconds long, and they don't have any ability to think critically. They don't read books. There's no empty space in which to just sit and contend with ideas and think about the world and your place with it. We're too busy. We're constantly, you know, inundated with media, and I think it's made us dumber and less aware and more vulnerable to be exploited by people who do not have our best interests in heart, and who do not are not interested in our freedom or helping us to learn and internalize great values and great ideas and live into grand narratives or anything like that. They're interested in getting as much of your time hooked up to their and your eyeballs hooked up to their platform for as long as possible so they can monetize it, or worse. Yeah,
everything is just an avenue of consumption for them. They want to create a person who is completely subservient to their technology, whether that is, I mean, look at how far. There's a documentary you can all watch, and I've plugged it on this show several times. It's called The Creepy Line, not sponsored. It's called The Creepy Line. It talks about Google and the big tech oligarchy, and look at how much Google has expanded beyond just being a simple search interface since, you know, its creation. It has expanded into Google Calendar. It has expanded into your email. It has expanded into Google Maps. It has expanded into Google Phone. It has expanded into Google Play. Why? Because those are all different ways for them to amass your information and then use it against you as a consumer. It's different ways for them to get you to consume. Now we sort of view Google as just an entity in our lives because it is everywhere. It is quite literally everywhere.
Yeah, you can't escape it.
You can't escape it. And it was not always like that. Again, Google did not start that way. It has grown that way because they know that they can amass your data in more ways than one. Now they amass your data in every way possible.
Yeah, but Google, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, all of them are, you know, that's basically a new oligarchy, and I think people have no idea how far their tentacles spread into your everyday life, and how much every little thing about you, all the data about you is being collected, and they're using that supposedly hopefully just to profit, but maybe could even be worse than that, more nefarious motives behind it as well.
Yeah, and you know what? What is interesting about this subject matter in particular is this is not a left versus right issue. This is a populist problem. This is an everybody problem. And if the left and the right united through a shared disdain for corporations and the stealing of our data and the infiltration of our minds, we would be so powerful. But we can't we can't breach our ideology to make that bond, even though we both feel that way. Both sides feel that way in regard to these corporations. Yet we cannot get past our ideological holes to start the fight where it really matters. That's the true fight.
Yeah, the fight for its freedom of thought is really at stake. I mean, these companies like Google can manipulate your search results to where if you're searching for there's been documented examples of, like, if you search for a young black man or something, it'll young white man, it'll show you black people or something. Like they intentionally tailor their algorithms to push certain political ideas and political ideologies, and it's like this is Google. You're in control of what people see on the internet, and you have a duty to show them accurate things that correspond to reality, and instead they're manipulating results and they're changing what you see online. I mean, this is a great time to mention that we have a short documentary with PragerU called Restricted, how big tech took away your freedom and how they've become the arbiters of what you see online. And if Facebook controls what you see on your Facebook feed and your Instagram feed, and they control like the news stories that you see and all this stuff, and the tentacles are everywhere, and the world that you see online is becoming a carefully crafted narrative, not just to get you to pay money or so get you to stay on their platform so they can monetize you better, but actually to indoctrinate you and alter your worldview and cause you to think a certain way. And and this is where too I want to mention, like, we started this episode with Joe Rogan, and that is like, we're talking about this Brave New World short attention span thing. Rogan is a 3-hour at a time interview. You can't listen to him go in depth with like an expert on epidemiology or an expert on medicine or a comedian or whoever, but having these long form discussions is something that's getting lost in the world that we live in today. And I think he's become so popular because he's sort of this oasis for where you can hear actually people lay out arguments and lines of thinking and be exposed to different perspectives with some nuance instead of 2-minute sound bites on TikTok or CNN. And I think the world needs more of that, like reading books, long form conversations, and growing your attention span so that you're not this Brave New World type of brain hooked up to media and never think critically about anything and just be exploited.
Right. Let's listen to more.
According to Huxley, this Brave New World totalitarianism was most likely to solidify in the 21st century. And so in this video, we are going to examine whether Huxley's predictions are coming true. Do we live in a brave new world? In Brave New World Revisited, Huxley wrote the following. In 1931, when Brave New World was being written, I was convinced that there was still plenty of time. The completely organized society, the scientific caste system, the abolition of free will by methodical conditioning, the servitude made acceptable by regular doses of chemically induced happiness. These were coming, all right, but not in my time, not even in the time of my grandchildren. 27 years later, I feel a good deal less optimistic than I did when I was writing Brave New World. The prophecies made in 1931 are coming true much sooner than I thought they would. The nightmare of total organization has emerged from the safe, remote future and is now awaiting us just around the next corner. In Brave New World, advances in psychology made it possible for the ruling authorities to use mind control to condition citizens from an early age to think and behave in ways that were submissive and conformist. Nearly 100 years after Huxley wrote his dystopian novel, has this type of conditioning left the realm of fiction and entered reality? Today, the art of mind control is in the process of becoming a science, Huxley wrote in 1958. The practitioners of this science know what they are doing and why. They are guided in their work by theories and hypotheses solidly established on a massive foundation of experimental evidence.
Whew. There's so much. I mean, honestly, this video deserves its own episode where we just go through it and talk about it. But that is so true. The art of mind control it's not even becoming a science anymore. It has become a science. Look at these apps. They hire scientists, psychologists to develop these apps in a way that keeps you on them, that keeps you consuming on them, that essentially hijacks your mind to where you want nothing more than to be doing this all day long. And that's why young people spend more time with social media and on their phone than they do even interacting with real people in real life.
Yeah, I mean, I work in our marketing department here at PragerU. That's my background. And I can tell you, I used to work for an agency there where we made spots that you see on CNN in the commercials or Fox News or whatever, and for like fundraising for nonprofits and such. And there's a whole field in this world called neuromarketing where they look into and run scientific tests on what is the best image to show you to get your attention and what are the best ways to hack someone's brain essentially in order to make their ads as effective as possible and get you to donate or get you to, and that's just in the world I had a toe in. But these platforms are doing scientific research to figure out how to hack your brain to keep you on their platform, and it won't be long. And we're already seeing snippets of not just how do I monetize you, how do I get more of your data, how do I get more of your time to show so I can sell your time to my advertisers and your attention to my advertisers and sell your data to advertisers, but how can I actually indoctrinate you with a worldview and have you stop thinking in according to traditions, or stop thinking according to an open world, and start making you think the way I want you to think, and start making you to believe things I want you to believe. And that is the more scary part to me, is whenever the people who are behind what you see online are using the power that they have to pull levers to get you to see the world a certain way. And I do not trust them, to preserve the way of the ideals of our founders or in ideals of freedom, and they're shown themselves perfectly willing to violate those very things in order to get you to believe what they want you to.
Yeah, and I think what we forget is that these technological entities are run by people. We can never forget that these are just normal, average, everyday people who happen to be very, very smart when it comes to software and the internet and development, who are essentially claiming their bias, putting it out into the ether for you to find, and indoctrinating you. Google has a perceived authority because it's Google, because it has all these apps, because you can't run from it essentially in your life. It is everywhere. So we view it as though it has authority over us. It's just people. There are people behind it. There are people who created Google. There are people who are running it right now. It is not some technological entity that is built to give you the best result or to filter out truth. No, it's people running, and they run on bias, and they push that bias towards you. And there's a reason. So when you go on Google and you go on their homepage, Google's homepage has no ads. It just simply says Google. You got your nice little search bar, and the space around it is white. Why do you think they did that? There's plenty of ad space on the Google homepage. They could shill ads to you all day long if they wanted to. And it's because having their homepage blank with just their name on it communicates to you subliminally that they are an authority, that they feel no need to indoctrinate you or to sell you anything, that Google is simply there for you to consume information, for you to find what you need to find. They're there to serve you. It's not true. They serve themselves. And as soon as you leave that Google home screen, then you're inundated with ads and consumption and their biased internet search results that people can pay for at this point.
Yeah, like Amala is saying, there's ultimately it's ill-motivated people who are behind these companies that are trying to get you to believe certain things or see the world a certain way. And what's the response to that? You need to be smarter than the people trying to control you. You need to be in control of your use of technology and not let your use of technology control you. And so you need to be aware of what these platforms are trying to do and the world that they're trying to persuade of you and to persuade your children of. And you need to educate yourself and educate them about critical thinking, about the free thought. You need to know the values that you share independent of what the internet is trying to teach you or what CNN's trying to teach you, and really dig in. And again, I mean, I'm not trying to just shamelessly plug PragerU, but this is what we exist for,
right.
is to try to be a bastion and a place where you can go to find counter-narrative things, counter-narrative information, counter-narrative perspectives that are deeper than just someone who's trying to get profit or someone who's trying to push a new progressive political ideology. And instead there's history here, there's wisdom through the ages that we can cherish and appreciate, and you need to have a deeper worldview that's rooted in something that we won't be swept away by the whims of big tech or whomever.
Yeah, and remember that there are alternatives. The oligarchy does have alternatives. I see a lot of people commenting DuckDuckGo. That's a valid search engine, which I'm not going to place my full endorsement on because I haven't looked into DuckDuckGo that much, but I know a lot of people that do use DuckDuckGo as a preferred alternative to Google. You have cryptocurrency-based search engines like Brave that actively give you cryptocurrency while you are using them, and that are obviously in the interest of keeping your anonymity and not selling your data as they are functioning on a decentralized market. So there's so many alternatives to using Google. Obviously, not all of them are as cleaned up as Google is because they have all the money and resource and capacity to give you the best experience, which is also what sucks you into these corporations. But there are options, and we should use those options.
There are, and it starts with just knowing what's going on. And I'm, as we're talking about this, I'm thinking about the Jurassic Park problem of technology. It's Ian Malcolm on the movie says you were so concerned with whether you could do this technological advancement that you didn't ask yourself whether you should.
Right.
But that's perpetually the problem with technology. And so people get all worked up and are blaming the fact that technology exists. But the reality is you should take responsibility for the world that you live in and the world that you can control, your life, and be smarter than the technology that's trying to hack you. And so that's my advice. And you can use tools like what Amala's talking about. There are people who see through it and see concerns, the same concerns that you do, and are creating solutions. I mean, there's other social platforms like Locals with Dave Rubin and Parler and other things like that. Support them and create a bigger demand and start to take some of the air out of these big companies, because right now they have a stranglehold on everything.
It's very, very true. I'm on Locals. You can follow me at Amala Epinobi. Will's on Locals as well. Download Locals. Start using that. That's alternative social media that you can use and still get in touch with the people that you know and the people that you love. And the platform needs to be bigger, and it will be if we start using it and we start creating a demand, as Taylor said. That is our show for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I think we'll deep dive back into this video again at a later date, because there's so much here to talk about. There's so much commentary to give. We got 3 minutes and 45 seconds into this 16-minute video with all of this commentary. There's so many things to say.
The link to this full video is in our description today as well.
Yes.
So you can check that out.
Yes, absolutely. Go and check it out. It will make you think far deeper.
Academy Ideas is a great channel. Like PragerU, it will make you think, and you will learn something, and you will be better for having gone to that channel. So we endorse them.
We endorse them, but we're not sponsored.
Personally. I don't know if PragerU doesn't officially.
It's a personal endorsement of Academy of Ideas. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single day when we go live, 2:30 PST to 5:30 Eastern. If you'd like to listen to us, you can go to Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review on those platforms so everybody knows that you love the show and that we know that you love the show. If you'd like to get a text telling you when we go live, text live to 41776. That is live to TO 41776. And we have a survey that we need you guys to fill out.
Someone said the survey's done. They did it. So thank you.
Yes.
I sent a thank you from the PragerU account, but we will read some of your feedback and highlight some of our favorite answers on the survey. So
yes,
if you want to be featured, fill it out. Or if you just love us and want to support us, that's the best thing you can do right now. Besides all the other things of liking, sharing, subscribing, putting notifications on.
Right.
The simple ways that basically cost you nothing, but they really help us out a lot. And doing the survey helps us even more. So thank you very much.
Thank you for all the people who commented throughout the stream saying you did the survey. We really appreciate it, and we hope to get more of you filling that out. Thank you guys for watching. We will be back tomorrow with the one William Witt.
Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.